Stop deforestation, yeah, it's time for hemp. Whoa, an acre of hemp makes 20 barrels of oil. No need for pesticides to poison all our soil. People got no food, they got no clothes, they got no rest. Well, right now it's time for hemp.
Thank you for taking time for hemp. I'm your host, Casper Leitch. You are listening to Time for Hemp on Tumblr, SoundCloud, iTunes, and, of course, iHeartRadio. I want to say thank you to KDK Distributors for being nice enough to give us a grant to keep us loud, proud, and strong. And, of course, a big thank you to Crop King Seeds for coming on board as one of our advertisers for the year. They rock. Make it a point to check out Crop King Seeds. It is Wednesday, and on Wednesdays we pay a big salute to all the hardworking people at LEAP Law Enforcement Against Prohibition, and we do so with my joint host and our joint guest. Don't forget, anytime you hear the word joint on the big joint broadcast, nearly 2.5 million people all around the world pack their bongs, their pipes, their vaporizers, and twist up a joint and jointly take time for hemp. With that said, I am going to pass this joint conversation over to my joint host, and he's going to have a joint chat with one of our joint friends here on the big joint broadcast while I smoke my joint and listen in jointly with you here at Time for Hemp. Lenny?
Casper, as always, an honor and a pleasure, but I admit I'm sitting here with a slight bit of concern. If I go to a paperless office, does that mean I can only vaporize?
Yes.
Huh. Oh, okay. Okay, intuitively vaporizing sounds like a better delivery method, but I really have to get rid of paper. It just gets in the way, and then I can't find it. So I'm scanning everything. Scanners they're so smart these days. I know they don't scan $100 bills, not that I've tried, but it really works. They don't scan them. Can I scan a joint on a 3D printer? Okay, I'll shut up now. Just my Wednesday musings. We have a guest today. I am thrilled, and Casper and I are thrilled to introduce you to Stephen Bradley. And Stephen, you are formerly involved with law enforcement, correct?
That is correct, yes.
Can you give us a rundown of your law enforcement background, which I understand ended that portion of your life in about 2011? Let's talk about...
I'm sorry, yeah. So I was in law enforcement for about 10 years. The last 8 years I spent at a full-service sheriff's office in the metro Atlanta area. We had about 400 deputies there, 350 to 400 deputies there. And when I left, I was a patrol supervisor for our South Precinct.
What does full service mean?
So it means basically that the sheriff of the county is responsible for providing all law enforcement services to the unincorporated portions of the county, which was the vast majority of the county that I worked in. So we provided all the law enforcement services as well as the other things that people typically associate with the sheriff, like serving warrants and civil papers and operating the jail and things like that.
So it would be fair for me to say you ran a company with a specific task of 400 key employees plus supporting staff for them. A large company.
I was one of many supervisors. I was a sergeant. There are a lot of different levels of supervisors. The sergeants are the first line supervisors, and then over them are the lieutenants and the captains and so on. So I was a part of that. I didn't run the agency, though.
And modesty, I am hearing, is a strong trait. You sound like quite a modest. You sound like quite a modest fellow for a man with substantial exposure and experience in law enforcement.
Well, I did it for a while. My span of control, though, was typically between 4 and 8 deputies, depending on the shift I was working on. So I was directly responsible for, a half dozen or so beat deputies on the road.
And was it a situation where you were generally and specifically aware of the cases they were working, of the types of cases that the department was encountering?
Yeah, that's actually the main job of the sergeant. The sergeant's job is to review all of the paperwork that his troops generate, send it back to them if it needs correction and detail or anything like that. Make sure they're, pulling read through the warrants that they pull, citations that they write, review the videos from their patrol cars, things like that.
So it was a combination of supervision, training, and the like?
Yeah, supervision, training, eating. We ate a lot, so there was that. And I wasn't always a supervisor for. That was about the last 3 years of my career. The rest of the time, I was a gun-ho deputy. Part of the time, I was on the SOAR team, which stands for Sheriff's Office Aggressive Response Team. And our job was basically to go out and find low-level drug users and drug dealers and help turn them over to detectives so they could maybe flip them as informants or something like that.
And you say you didn't start off being the boss. You had to work your way up. Again, I'm hearing that modesty. It would be like President Obama saying, well, I didn't start as president. Okay.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of parts to a machine, and I was one part of it. And, I encountered a lot of people. On some nights I might meet 50 new people. So, I contacted a lot of citizens, and I made a lot of my own arrests and approved a lot of my troops' arrests. And, the last year or two there is when I really started seeing the handwriting on the wall about the drug war and started investigating medical marijuana and things like that. Decided it was just time to find something else to do.
And this is a softball-loaded question, but is it fair to say that it was the arrests that you were involved with hands-on, the ones you reviewed, the citizen interactions over a number of years that came together to lead you to your current position with COP and LEAP? And we'll talk about what those mean in one sec.
So not at first. At first, it was more of an intellectual exercise for me. I started seeing things about medical marijuana, and I went down that rabbit hole. And anybody that's ever done that knows that, you can spend a lot of time down there. And so I started forming my own opinions, and it's at that time that those former, previous arrests started coming together in my mind, and I started putting all this together. And about that time, I also ran into an elderly couple in a convenience store that were buying rolling papers. And, I talked to them. I recognized instantly what it was for. This guy was walking with a cane. So they were gracious enough to talk to me and tell me what medical marijuana had done for them. So it was just another in a long line of things that came together, and I decided it was best to do other things. My heart just wasn't in it anymore.
So initially, if I may state it this way, it became uncomfortable and didn't seem intellectually correct or intellectually honest to be in the position of taking people's medicine away.
Yeah, it didn't make any sense at all. And, beyond just the medicine, looking at it from a, I view cannabis especially as a human rights issue. And, in my mind, I did a lot to in my time to, I guess, further the prohibitionist message. And what I do now is I spend my days trying to undo some of that.
Based on your experience trying to, and the switch that you made you really crossed the street from.
I did, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you crossed the superhighway there and became quite a strong advocate to end prohibition.
Indeed, yeah. That's my main focus now. That's what I spend most of my time trying to do now.
Do you think if we gave it, in my mind, people talk about the war on drugs and prohibition and all that, and they talk about Nixon and those years. And I think people frequently forget about the real date, which may well be 1937, with the first Narcotics Act and the Anslinger
Drug Act.
Yeah, so we've been fighting this war on drugs for many years. I'm troubled by the idea that you can have a war on a substance, as opposed to a war is something that happens between people.
Well, and I think we're part of the disconnect is by a lot of the prohibitionists, is while they do see this as a war on a substance or on an evil, I would almost say. Really what it is a war on humans. It's a war on citizens of our country who've done nothing other than grow a plant or smoke a plant. It makes no logical sense.
And there is just no question that it is a war by our government against our people.
Correct. And I would go on to say that it's a war by our government against other countries' people as well, against the people in Mexico, where Felipe Calderon's after he got elected, and he carried the mantle for the U.S. drug war, and over 37,000 people have died there because they're fighting our drug war.
And we're creating the market if we grow our own drugs, whether it's coca leaves or opium poppies, which, by the way, are legal to grow and have been all along. It's just what you do with them that can become illegal. If we were to grow our own drugs, nasty or benign, then do we help Mexico or do we hurt Mexico? I think
I would say we definitely help Mexico, because what we've seen by the expanding legal cannabis market in the U.S. is that we're putting cartels out of business, or at least we're forcing them to shift from marijuana to other drugs like heroin and methamphetamine. So, that to me makes it clear that if all drugs were regulated, and I know that's a touchy subject, it's a very wide-ranging subject there, but if they were all regulated, then violence in Mexico and other countries like that would probably vanish in a matter of overnight.
I did read a story about 2 months ago now, with at least the initial evidence that the wholesale price of Mexican marijuana coming north had dropped in half as a result. Yeah. Exactly. So we are seeing just that impact. Let me ask you this. We've been fighting this war on people, disguised as a war on drugs, but a war on our own people, since 1937. Do you have any reason to believe that if we carried on this war against our own people, if we carried on this war for another year, could we win? Could we make all... Please.
Well, in 1937, before the Harrison Drug Act was passed, a survey was done that found that 1.3% of the American population was addicted to some sort of drug. When Richard Nixon ramped up the drug war in the early 70s, they did another study. They found that 1.3% of the American population, after all that time of fighting the drug war, was addicted to drugs. The number today remains the same. 1.3 to 1.4% of the American public is addicted to drugs. We've not kept one person from using drugs since this drug war began.
Let me be sarcastic here, if I might. shouldn't we believe that in just another 10 years we'd win? Or another 20 or another 100 or ever?
Well, sure, if we keep using the same logic that we've prosecuted this war with so far.
And with equal expectation of success. Prohibition.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Prohibition,
I can't imagine anything changing if you keep doing the same thing.
One of the signs of insanity is doing something, seeing the result you don't want, and then repeating the behavior and expecting a different result. That's one of the definitions of insanity.
Exactly.
Nothing could describe, many things could describe the drug war, but insanity, classically defined, I have to see as just demonstrated by repeatedly trying what we know doesn't work. What type of demographics generally would describe the metro area that you were working in?
Where I was working, the northern suburb, it was mostly white. It was just a county called Forsyth County.
Mm-hmm.
They took care of all the African Americans in the late 1800s and 1900s by stealing their land and running them out. So it's still today mostly white. The southern end of the county, which borders Fulton County, is becoming more racially diverse. But it was a white suburban affluential county mostly.
So while we know the devastating impact that the drug on war, that the war on drugs has had on people of darker color, what I think I'm hearing is it's not just the people of color, it's the white guys too that are getting arrested in small drug cases and larger drug cases.
Well, yeah, I mean, it happens. I think there is a lot to be said about racial disparity in arrests. I was speaking at we had a rally yesterday in Atlanta, and I was speaking there. And while I was researching that, I found that Fulton County, which is the county that Atlanta resides in, 87% of their marijuana arrests in 2010 were African American. And the city of Atlanta is even worse. It's about 92%. So I guess you draw from whatever you have access to. If you're gonna arrest people and trample on their basic rights, I guess you take whatever you're given. I really don't know how to say it other than that, but we arrested plenty of people, both white, black, many different colors for drugs.
So in the war against people, color didn't matter. You take them however you find them.
So where I worked, that was true. I know that's not true in other departments that have a larger racial disparity, a larger racial mix. I know there is racial disparity. I did not see it that much where I was simply because of the demographics of the county.
One of the things that you're demonstrating and that is key to us moving the ball forward, honesty. It seems so simple.
Right, I agree.
I don't want to hear what I want to hear. I want to hear the truth, which is what I am hearing. And let's be truth-based instead of based on a war that included outlawing rope. We made it illegal to produce rope in 1937. Now, if that's not non-fact-based, non-reality, dishonest legislation, I don't know what is.
I wonder how much different our relationship with the Middle East would be right now if we were burning hemp oil on our cars.
Beyond belief.
Yeah.
When I will never forget the front page of the New York Times, above the fold, U.S. troops in Afghanistan walking, full uniform, battle ready, walking past a huge poppy field. The reason they were walking past it rather than taking any action was we needed that particular chieftain, that particular tribal leader on our side. We compare that. Irony. We make drugs illegal, so we can't produce them here, so people that are going to get their, say, heroin anyway, end up purchasing heroin from Afghanistan. They're very good at growing it and very happy to grow it and sell it. They say they need the money to survive, and there's a lot of truth to it. So we buy heroin from them. They then use that income to buy bullets. They then shoot us with those bullets. There's something wrong in that picture.
I think there are a lot of things wrong in all of these pictures. And I think that's why I'm sitting here. I mean, and there are a lot of other officers like me that come around, and typically the way that not everybody leaves. Typically the way people deal with it is, or officers deal with it, is they start exercising their discretion and not arresting people for petty offenses like marijuana possession. And my goal is to show people that there are a lot of people out there like that, a lot of officers out there like that. There really are. We just have to get them all on the same page.
I heard a comment yesterday, indirectly, an officer in New Jersey investigating a burglary, a home burglary, and one of the items stolen was a couple of grams of illegal in the state of New Jersey marijuana. The officer's position was, as one would hope, no concern that the item had been marijuana included in the theft. Their concern was the theft, and one of the comments was fascinating. The comment was by an officer, well, it's going to be legal in 5 years anyway.
That's it. Exactly.
Well, one thing that's not legal is getting items and not paying for them. And because of that, we got to take advertising breaks and cover our budget. And that's what we're going to do right now. And then we're going to pick up where we left off after a wonderful song about how fantastic marijuana is here at Time for Hemp. You are listening to the Time for Hemp Global Broadcasting Network. Please share us with your friends.
THCF Medical Clinics are the premier physicians clinic in the United States. THCF has offices all across the United States from Hawaii to Michigan. THCF Medical Clinics has helped approximately 150,000 patients obtain their medical marijuana permits to legally possess, grow, and use medical marijuana. If you have chronic pain, multiple sclerosis, or any other neurological degenerative disease, or if you have any gastrointestinal disorders such as GERD, irritable bowel syndrome, or if you have AIDS, cancer, spastic disorders, seizure disorders, or glaucoma, call us at 1-800-723-0188 or visit us online at hemp.org. Again, the number is 1-800-723-0188 and the site is hemp.org.
that, man.
Hell yeah.
Help him out. Say what? Yeah.
First thing you do when you get out of bed is take a big toke to ease your head. You light 'em up. Light 'em up.
Come on, Johnny.
If your boss is a fucking jerk, then you better get high before you go to work. You light 'em up.
I better get high here.
Light 'em up. If they only give you a half hour for lunch, get a QT burrito and a Hawaiian punch. And light 'em up. Light 'em up. Yeah, what you gonna do when you clock out? You gonna get in your car, turn your stereo up loud and light 'em up.
Light 'em up.
Light 'em up. Don't let 'em tell you that you're doing something wrong. Just blow a big hit in the face and hand 'em that fucking ball. Say, light 'em up. Light 'em up. Light 'em up. Light 'em up.
Watch out now. Hey. Get on there. Yeah, look. Look, Guns N' Roses break down.
Guns N' Roses.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, why don't you throw some shit down on this, bro?
Say what?
Yeah.
You want me to rap?
That's why we brought you out to the sound farm, dude.
Give me that blunt. Hand me the
Yo.
mic, man. Afro, man. I'm in need, so I'ma call Johnny Reefer Seed. I need some weed to deal with life. I'm getting a divorce from my wife. I live every day on the road. On my back is a heavy load. I can't do a show unless I'm high. My eyelids glow, you can't see my eye. If I get mad as hell, the policeman throw me in jail. So that's why I get real high. I'm Afro man, a real nice guy. I'm a marijuana Christian, you know what I mean? My pastor is Reverend Ray Green. Singing on the mic with the bong holders. Johnny Reaper Seed at the highway. Yeah. Hey man, Reverend, break it down, Reverend. He's breaking it down. He rolling it out. Yeah. All right, yeah. Check.
If your old lady's getting on your case, don't get mad and spit in the face. Light 'em up.
Light 'em up, man. Go ahead and
Light 'em up.
Yeah.
If your car breaks down in the freezing snow and you gotta pay $100 just to get a tow, light 'em up.
And what if you can't get a cab?
Light 'em up.
Motherfuckers, hey, come on.
Don't let 'em tell you that you're doing something wrong. Just blow a big hit in the face and hand 'em that fucking ball. Say, light 'em up. 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 Light 'em, light 'em up. Motherfucker, nigga, how light 'em up. Light 'em up, light 'em up. Light 'em up, light 'em up. Light 'em up, light 'em up. Light 'em, light 'em up. Motherfucker, light 'em up. Light 'em up. Watch out, man. Light 'em up. Get that light, light 'em up. Light 'em up. Light 'em up. That was Afro Man and Johnny Reefer Seed and the High Rollers lighting them up. You are listening to Time for Hemp. I am Casper Leitch, host of the show, also founder of the Time for Hemp Global Broadcasting Network. We are no longer just a 1-hour broadcast. We are a group of people who have come together to broadcast 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, into iHeartRadio, Tumblr, SoundCloud, iTunes, and, of course, on timeforhemp.com. The truth about the need to end prohibition. Please share us with your friends. It is Wednesday, and we take a big joint salute to all of our friends at LEAP, Law Enforcement Against Prohibition. If you want to help educate the minds in your community to the truth about how horrific these prohibition policies are, go to leap.cc, find a speaker to bring to your neck of the woods. With that said, I'm going to pass this joint conversation back over to my joint host for their joint chat with our joint friend here at Time for Hemp. Lenny?
Must be time for a spliff, man.
Absolutely.
The song that you just played at the end reminded me of something that I first heard when I was 16 years old. This was some time ago in Negril, Jamaica. And the quotation was, "If you don't cough, you don't get off."
Oh, that can be true. Yes, that can be true.
Stephen, I understand that you are involved in a number of organizations working to move this ball forward, working towards ending prohibition. What organizations are you working with currently?
So I recently started a website called southerncannabis.org. The goal of Southern Cannabis is to eventually bring together the varied state legalization organizations throughout the South and provide them not just with a voice, but a place to educate people about what's going on in their own backyard. The people in Georgia need to know that the state of South Carolina already passed the CBD law. And they need to know that they immediately found out that without in-state cultivation, it meant nothing. That, almost nobody has gotten any oil since this law was passed. But that's not the story that's being told in Georgia or in Florida or other states where they want to cram legislation down people's throats to get them to shut up. And so my goal with Southern Cannabis is to keep them from being able to tell people to shut up. In addition to that, I'm also an advisory board member for Peachtree NORML, which is the Georgia NORML chapter, and I'm also involved with Georgia CARE, which is a campaign for access, reform, and education, which is also a fantastic organization in Georgia.
You're also involved with LEAP.cc, Law Enforcement Against Prohibition, and you're involved with them as a speaker, correct?
That is correct, yes.
And as I believe many of our listeners know, we have perhaps 1.5 million or more supporters and 300 plus speakers. Where I'm going with that is I would love our listeners to hear, and I don't think they can hear it too many times, are there opportunities? What are the opportunities for civilians to become involved in helping to solve this problem?
I'm really glad you asked that. So the first thing they could do is they can actually join LEAP. They can go to leap.cc. They can sign up for our newsletter as well as become members of LEAP. They can also volunteer for LEAP. We have a lot of volunteers that do not have law enforcement experience, but they support our message, and they do things like help set up speaking engagements for our speaker bureau, getting stuff like that handled, actually going out and meeting with people and trying to get us venues to talk.
So it's the speakers like you, like me, you as a former, and you could be a current law enforcement officer or a former prison warden or a former judge, former prosecutor. Those are just requirements to be a LEAP speaker, correct?
That's correct, yes. All of our speakers are either we do have current law enforcement officers that are speakers. as well as former law enforcement officers retired. We have judges, prosecutors, and people like that. But that, like you said, that is just the speaker bureau for LEAP. We do have a lot of people that volunteer and participate in a non-law enforcement capacity also.
So the 1.5 million supporters are not necessarily law enforcement and don't necessarily have any of those titles or previous titles that are required of our speakers, correct?
That's correct. All we need is somebody who agrees with our message that this drug war has been a failure and we've got to try something different.
Have you met one LEAP speaker anywhere ever who has said, "Oh, I can't speak to that group. They're too scary. They're Republicans. They're black. They're white. They're whatever it is"? Have you ever seen a LEAP speaker shy away from any speaking engagement?
No, not at all. In fact, most of our speaking engagements aren't necessarily what you would call friendly engagements. I mean, a lot of them are things like Rotary clubs and Kiwanis clubs and other civic organizations such as that, and other things like that where, you have an audience made up of basically it would look like whatever community you're speaking to. So, but what I can say is that LEAP speakers, based on surveys that we do after these talks, is that we managed to convince 80% of our audience of our message. And so, that's saying a lot because there's a lot of diversity in the crowds that we go into that we speak to.
Has your experience been similar to mine? And specifically, I am referring to my experience that whether it's a Rotary, a Kiwanis, whether it's Larimer County Republicans, the sheriff of Laramie County, which contains Cheyenne, Wyoming, the chief of police of Cheyenne, what I see is an intellectual honesty where it might not have been expected, where it unfairly might not have been expected, that these various groups are receptive. Has that been your experience?
Well, that is my experience, and the reason for that is because the reason that we're able to convince such a large portion of our audience is that is because of the wide range of training and experience that we bring to this, and the fact that the people that are talking to you served in the front trenches in the war on drugs. So who better to tell you whether it's working or not? Who better to tell you whether a war is working or not than a soldier in the trenches?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You also referred to one of your activities being the coordination of the various groups, many of the various groups that are working on similar overlapping agendas, such as Normal, Georgia Normal, Peachtree Normal. It is my belief that in Colorado, what is now Article 18, Section 16, recreational marijuana, I believe that without the coordination, cooperation, just the things that you're working on, without that level of cooperation, I'm not so sure we would have won. I think part of the reason we won is because these groups with somewhat varying messages, overlapping messages, were willing and able to work together. So I want to applaud you for focusing part of your, sounds like a 90-hour week, to devoting part of it to that organization. It matters. It really matters.
Well, now, I agree with you. I don't know of a single legalization effort that of any serious marijuana reform legislation that has taken place without a combined effort of people. A lot of personalities have been born in the movement, but it's taken the combined effort of a lot of people to get where we've got.
Well, one thing that gets me to where I go is the money in my pocket, and the only way I can have any of that is if we pay our bills. So with that said, we are going to take a commercial break and come back in just about 1 minute and take more Time for Hemp. You are listening to the Time for Hemp Global Broadcasting Network. Please share us with your friends.
Serious Seeds is your source for quality cannabis and sativa seeds. Serious Seeds are the creators of legendary strains like AK-47, Bubblegum, Chronic, Cali Mist, and White Russian. The AK-47 is probably the most awarded strain on the planet. The high THC content of AK-47 makes it the perfect medical strain for patients seeking quick pain relief. Cali Mist is an almost pure sativa. Female medical cannabis patients have reported that this strain helps relieve menstrual cramps. Serious Seeds just acquired another Dutch high-quality seed bank, Magus Genetics. From now on, Serious Seeds can offer you even more award-winning strains. The fine folks at Serious Seeds strive to breed the best cannabis genetics that they can find, so patients can rely on the effectiveness of their medicine. Go to SeriousSeeds.com to grow your medicine. That site again is SeriousSeeds.com.
Well, I once had a bowl, good green reefer, a big fat Jones beef, much, much sweeter. Mighty don't hide it. Mighty don't hide it. Well, mighty don't hide it. Mighty don't hide it. Well, I don't hide it. Fire up right now.
Yeah, baby, fire up right now. Be loud, be proud. Come out of the closet and let the whole world know that you do utilize medical marijuana, recreational herb, just because you can. And to call us criminals is wrong. And then this opens up a conversation as to why it is wrong. If you need help with that conversation, you can go to leap.cc, Law Enforcement Against Prohibition, and find somebody on their speakers list to bring into your neck of the woods and help educate the minds about the needs to end these horrible policies. With that said, I'm going to pass this joint chat back to two members of that illustrious organization. They are having a great joint conversation. My joint host and our joint guest today, and I'm going to sit here and enjoy my joint here at Time for Hemp. Gentlemen?
Casper Leitch, Stephen Bradley, Lenny Frieling. With the three of us, gentlemen, I believe we can light up the room.
Yes, we can.
And Steve Bradley, you have a day job, and your day job consists of designing websites, marketing programs, and the like, correct?
That is correct. Yes, I do own a company called WeedBiz, where we provide marketing services to legal dispensaries, consultants, things like that.
And spell that for us so we get it right.
Weed as in W-E-E-D, and biz as in B-I-Z, weedbiz.us.
Weedbiz.us. And giving away the punchline here, those are services, web design services and the like, that you are also doing as a service, as a contribution towards some of these organizations that you're working with.
Yeah, so we do. WeedBiz does a lot of different marketing, provides a lot of different marketing services, and some of that we do for free to various legalization organizations, especially around here in my state where I live.
And as states legalize and regulate, as they legalize and regulate, you're in fact working on a seed-to-sale management system?
So I've partnered with a software developer, and we're currently developing a software product called Dispensary Owner, it's basically a one-stop shop for owners of medical and recreational marijuana dispensaries. It handles all the point-of-sale stuff and the employee management and stock and vendor relations and things like that.
I have good news for you. Not only do I predict that you are going to have 50 states as markets for you to sell your product to, I believe you are going to have an increasing list of other countries who will have the same need. We already have Portugal, Uruguay, Brazil moving in the right direction, Mexico in the right direction, and the Netherlands at this point almost just catching up to the rest. So may your business grow and prosper.
Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome. In your years as an officer, as a LEO, as a law enforcement officer on the street, did you run into one drug dealer for any drug of any type who asked the purchaser for proof of age?
No, I never saw anybody get carded for trying to purchase an illegal drug. Never saw that one.
So even at the most simple, basic kind of a liquor store model, show proof of age, show money, here's what you want. By keeping things under... Yes, go ahead, please.
No, I'm sorry. I did not mean to interrupt, but I was just going to point out how we were able to basically get kids to stop smoking by and large. You know, in the 70s and 80s, kids had access to cigarettes everywhere. But when we added the regulation and we started threatening to arrest store owners for selling cigarettes to children, suddenly access to cigarettes basically went away. You know, I think today somewhere around 25% of teenagers certified say that they feel like they could get cigarettes if they wanted to. And in the 70s, that was more like 80 or 90%.
I have heard that in middle school, in high school, it is easier to purchase marijuana than it is to purchase cigarettes, which in my mind suggests that the regulated market does work.
It absolutely does.
So that's consistent with what you're seeing also.
Right, and that's exactly the message of LEAP, and that's the message that's the conclusion that hundreds and thousands of current and former law enforcement officers and judges and prosecutors have come to, which is that keeping it illegal does nothing but create an illicit market. When you legalize and add regulation, then you take away the access to people that shouldn't have it.
Have you ever seen a conviction be cured? Once somebody has a felony conviction, can that be cured?
I don't know if you can cure it. I know you can ask the governor for a pardon some years later, but I mean, an arrest and conviction, especially for something as minor as marijuana, people have no idea what that does to people. We were talking earlier off the air about people stealing to get money for drugs. Well, the simple fact is a great number of people steal to get money for drugs because they can't get a job, because they have to take a drug test and pass a pre-employment screen to get hired. So, something like 18 to 20% of federal prisoners that are in jail for stealing are in jail for stealing to get money to buy drugs.
And it's a government price-supported industry. If it was not illegal, then the price goes down. And in fact, we're seeing that in Colorado. What was once a $400 plus ounce of marijuana now might be $200. We're already seeing that. So what I'm hearing is not only do we have that underlying drug crime, but then we have additional crime that simply would not exist if the drugs were legalized.
Byproduct. Sure, it's a byproduct of prohibition.
And it's not even an unforeseeable consequence. It's a foreseeable consequence. We know it will happen.
That's right. That's exactly right.
As we're fond of saying in LEAP, you can cure an addiction. You cannot cure a conviction. And I
That's
know
exactly right. That's it.
You saw that on the streets. You saw that at work, day in and day out.
Absolutely. You know, especially where I live in Georgia, the private probation industry, you wouldn't believe how much money is made in fines and fees from these private companies whose only job is to collect money from people that have been arrested for something as petty as possessing marijuana. And it's such an impact on people's lives that, and until we're able to get people to see what an impact it is, we're just going to keep getting the same thing that we've been getting.
We have 2 private probation companies in Colorado. And think about it. If it is a state probation department, their goal is to preserve their resources, conserve their resources, and, for example, not give drug tests to somebody where it's just flat out inappropriate. How do we change that with a private probation company? It's the same as a private prison. It's what I call the Motel 8 model. They make money when they fill every bed every night. They make money when they require drug testing of every person every day. Their model is the opposite of what we would.
And don't forget that some states sign contracts with these private prison companies, including my state, that guarantees a minimum number of people in beds, and if they don't meet that minimum guarantee, the state has to pay them.
The government guarantees that they will put a certain number of people in prison.
That's right.
I'm not allowed to be speechless given my role to, it's not permitted. That leaves me speechless. It is, people get offended when they find out their local police department has a speeding ticket quota. People get up in arms. What do you mean you have a speeding ticket quota? Here, we're talking about a prison quota. If a speeding ticket quota is bad, I mean, holy cannoli and flaming joints. That's just crazy.
It is. It's backwards logic.
It's backwards logic. It is. Let me ask you another question that I think answers itself. Was enough time spent fighting drug crime, attempting to enforce prohibition, that you saw any impact on the ability of law enforcement to fight rape, murder, robbery, what some of us would call real crime?
Well, you know, of course, when you allot a certain amount of your law enforcement agency to chasing down and arresting drug criminals, then other things are going to go unsolved. For instance, the murder clearance rate. In 1963, before we started this war on drugs, really had this major push in the war on drugs. In 1963, our police were solving 91% of the murders, 91% of all murders that happened. And today that clearance rate is 61%. Now, tell me how in all those years we're solving 30% less murders with all of the advances in all of the technology that we have. Who doesn't watch CSI? We have a lot of that stuff. How are we solving 30% less murders than we were in 1960?
I admit that even though my day job is criminal defense, I come home and watch Law and Order and Special Victims Unit.
Right.
I admit it.
Well, I have to admit that I actually was watching an NCSI, SI, CSI, one of those, right? And it was like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I felt like I'm 60 years old, and I felt the need to call my older sister to have her come over and watch it with me so I'd have an adult in the room. Apparently, at the opening of the show, a woman and her daughter is coming home. The police are there. The woman's husband was strung up in the den, wrapped up in leather, and after he was killed, someone shoved a banana up his butt.
Okay.
And that's how the show opened, and I thought, really?
I thought you were supposed to smoke the banana peel.
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
That's a new delivery method.
And this is at 3 o'clock in the afternoon where, Johnny and Jill are getting home from school and turning on the TV set and seeing some guy wrapped up in leather with a leather cap, hearing how after he died somebody shoved a banana up his butt.
How do you suppose they determined the banana went up after he died?
And then it was followed by a 3:30 p.m. in the afternoon ad for Viagra.
It was. And something good for your hemorrhoids. Well, we've got to wrap it up here. Let our audience know about our organizations and some of our favorite events coming up. So we'll start with our joint guest first. Stephen?
Yes, my turn.
Give a shout-out for URLs and any events you want people to know about.
Right, so I don't think I have any events lined up right now. We just had a great rally yesterday in Atlanta that I spoke at, the Rally for Peace, Justice, and Unity 2015. And interestingly, we also had, I think, 4 other states across the South. We were holding a joint, at a joint time with these other states. There was a rally in Tallahassee. There was one in Alabama. One in Louisiana. So, we plan to come together and fight these ridiculous prohibition laws, and we're not going to stop. There are a lot of naysayers, there are a lot of people that say you're in the South, you're not going to make a difference, but we've already made a difference. It's just a matter of claiming the victory that we know is there.
And, Your Honor?
Cooperation, as Stephen Bradley is doing day in, day out. Shout out to Normal, NORML.org. Shout out to LEAP, LEAP.cc. The message to me in today's show is that, once again, you are either part of the solution or part of the problem. Do you like Normal? Join. You like LEAP? Join. Personally, I join them all, and they're all doing good work. They need the members, they need the volunteer work, they need the list of people on their email list. Do not be part of the problem, be part of the solution.
And they really need the money, Chief.
And you're absolutely right. You need to put one foot in front of the other. Get up off that couch. Really, who cares who's going to win American Idol? All that means is that somebody's going to be rich and not you. So you need to get up off that couch and go out the door and let the world know how important it is to take time for hemp.
Look at all that money, yeah, the money that they spend. Take another look and spend some time for hemp. Don't cut trees for paper, 'cause it hurts the environment. Stop deforestation, yes, it's time for hemp. Whoa, an acre of hemp makes 20 bales of oil. No need for pesticides to poison
You are listening to the Time for Hemp Global Broadcasting Network. Please share us